Every time you quit something, you train yourself to be a quitter. Every time you give up when things get hard, you strengthen your quitting muscle and weaken your persistence muscle. Most people have become professional quitters without even realizing it. They've practiced giving up so many times that it's become their default response to difficulty. They've turned quitting into a skill and wonder why success feels impossible. Let me tell you something that might shake you up a little bit. There are two kinds of people in this world: those who dream about success and those who make it happen. And the difference between these two groups isn't talent, it isn't luck, it isn't who they know or where they come from. The difference is one simple thing: relentlessness. Most people quit. That's the truth. They quit when it gets hard. They quit when it gets uncomfortable. They quit when they can't see the results they want fast enough. They quit when people start doubting them. They quit when the bills pile up. They quit when their friends tell them they're crazy. They quit when they're tired, when they're frustrated, when they're scared. But here's what I've learned after decades of watching people succeed and fail. The only difference between those who make it and those who don't is that the successful ones simply refuse to quit. They become so relentless in their pursuit that quitting isn't even an option anymore. It becomes impossible. Now, I want you to think about your own life for a moment. Think about all the things you've started and never finished. Think about all the dreams you've abandoned. Think about all the goals you've given up on. Why did you quit? What was it that made you throw in the towel? I'll tell you what it was. You weren't relentless enough. You weren't committed enough. You didn't make success inevitable. You left yourself an escape route, and when things got tough, you took it. Let me share something with you from my own experience. When I first started in business, I failed more times than I care to remember. I started companies that went nowhere. I invested in deals that fell apart. I tried ventures that seemed promising but turned into disasters. Every time something went wrong, I had a choice. I could quit or I could keep going. The easy thing would have been to quit. My friends were telling me to get a regular job. My family was worried about me. I was worried about me. The bills were piling up. The stress was overwhelming. Everything in me wanted to give up and take the safe path. But something inside me wouldn't let me quit. It wasn't that I was special. It wasn't that I had some kind of superhuman willpower. It was simpler than that. I had made a decision that failure wasn't an option. I had burned my bridges to mediocrity. I had committed to success so completely that quitting felt impossible. And that's when everything changed. When you make quitting impossible, when you remove that option from your vocabulary, when you commit to being relentless no matter what happens, something magical occurs. You start to find solutions you never saw before. You start to work harder than you ever worked before. You start to think differently than you ever thought before. Relentlessness isn't about being stubborn. It's not about refusing to change your approach when something isn't working. It's about refusing to change your destination. It's about being so committed to where you're going that you'll do whatever it takes to get there. Think about water for a moment. Water is one of the most powerful forces on earth, not because it's hard, but because it's relentless. It never stops. It finds a way around every obstacle. It wears down the hardest rock. It carves through mountains. It reshapes continents, not through force, but through persistence, through relentlessness. That's what you need to become. You need to become like water, soft when necessary, but absolutely relentless. Always moving toward your goal, always finding a way, never stopping, never quitting. But here's what most people don't understand about relentlessness. They think it's about big, dramatic gestures. They think it's about working 20-hour days or making huge sacrifices. That's not what relentlessness is. Relentlessness is about consistency. It's about showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. It's about doing the work, especially when you don't want to do the work. Relentlessness is about making success inevitable through the compound effect of daily actions and decisions. It's about understanding that every day you don't quit, you get stronger. Every day you don't give up, you get closer. Every day you keep going, you build momentum that becomes harder and harder to stop. The tragedy is that most people quit right before they would have succeeded. They give up when they're 3 feet from goal. They stop when they're on the 1-yard line. They surrender when victory is just around the corner. They don't realize that their breakthrough was just one more day, one more try, one more attempt away. I've seen it happen over and over again. People who had everything they needed to succeed, except the one thing that matters most, the refusal to quit. They had the talent, they had the opportunity, they had the resources, but when things got difficult, when progress seemed slow, when obstacles appeared bigger than expected, they gave up. And then I've seen other people with less talent, fewer opportunities, and limited resources achieve incredible success simply because they refused to quit. They weren't the smartest people in the room. They weren't the most connected. They weren't the luckiest. But they were the most relentless. Here's what I want you to understand. Success is not about being perfect. It's not about never making mistakes. It's not about having all the answers. Success is about being relentless in your pursuit of your goals, no matter what obstacles you face, no matter how many times you fail, no matter how long it takes. The cost of quitting is always greater than the cost of continuing. When you quit, you lose everything you've invested up to that point. All the time, all the energy, all the effort, all the money gone. But when you continue, when you persist, when you refuse to give up, every investment you've made starts to compound. Every effort builds on the last. Every day of persistence adds to your momentum. Think about compound interest for a moment. A small amount of money invested consistently over time becomes a fortune. Not because of any single deposit, but because of the power of compound growth. Each deposit builds on all the previous deposits. Time and consistency turn small amounts into large amounts. The same principle applies to success in any area of life. Small efforts applied consistently over time create extraordinary results. Not because any single effort is extraordinary, but because the compound effect of relentless action is extraordinary. But here's the catch. Compound interest only works if you don't withdraw your money. The moment you pull out your investment, you lose all the compound growth you've built up. You have to start over from zero. The same is true with success. The moment you quit, you lose all the momentum you've built up. All the progress you've made disappears. All the lessons you've learned become worthless. You have to start over from the beginning. That's why quitting is so expensive. It's not just that you don't achieve your goal. It's that you lose everything you've invested in trying to achieve that goal. Every hour of work becomes wasted time. Every dollar spent becomes a sunk cost. Every relationship built becomes a lost connection. But when you refuse to quit, when you become relentless in your pursuit, something different happens. All of your investments start to pay dividends. All of your efforts start to compound. All of your persistence starts to pay off. This is why successful people seem to have luck on their side. It's not that they're luckier than everyone else. It's that they've been persistent long enough for their efforts to compound into what looks like overnight success. They've been relentless long enough for opportunity to find them. Opportunity doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who work. It comes to those who persist. It comes to those who refuse to quit. It comes to those who make themselves so valuable, so skilled, so prepared that when opportunity does appear, they're ready to seize it. But you have to be in the game to win the game. You have to be working on your goals to achieve your goals. You have to be moving toward your dreams to reach your dreams. And that means you can't quit, ever. The moment you make quitting impossible, everything changes. Your mind starts working differently. Instead of looking for excuses to give up, you start looking for reasons to continue. Instead of focusing on problems, you start focusing on solutions. Instead of seeing obstacles, you start seeing opportunities. When quitting is not an option, persistence becomes automatic. When giving up is impossible, success becomes inevitable. When you refuse to accept failure as final, victory becomes just a matter of time. Now that we've established the importance of never quitting, let me tell you what true relentlessness really means. Because most people have it all wrong. They think relentlessness is about grinding yourself into the ground. They think it's about working yourself to death. They think it's about sacrifice and suffering and making your life miserable in pursuit of your goals. That's not relentlessness. That's stupidity. True relentlessness is intelligent, it's strategic, it's sustainable. It's about working smarter, not just harder. It's about building systems and habits that make persistence automatic. It's about creating momentum that carries you forward even when you don't feel like moving. Let me break this down for you. Relentlessness isn't about working 20-hour days. It's about working the right hours every day. It's not about doing more. It's about doing better. It's not about being busy, it's about being productive. I've seen too many people burn themselves out in the name of relentlessness. They work themselves sick, they neglect their families, they ignore their health, they sacrifice everything for their goals. And then they wonder why they can't sustain their efforts. They wonder why they eventually hit a wall. They wonder why their relentlessness turns into resentment. That's not the kind of relentlessness I'm talking about. The relentlessness that leads to lasting success is built on a foundation of wisdom. It's about understanding that success is a marathon, not a sprint. It's about pacing yourself for the long haul. It's about building habits that you can maintain for years, not days. Think about the most successful people you know. Really think about them. Are they the ones who work the most hours? Are they the ones who sacrifice everything? Are they the ones who never take a break? Or are they the ones who have found a way to be consistently productive over long periods of time? The answer is always the latter. Truly successful people understand that relentlessness is about consistency, not intensity. It's about showing up every day, not working every hour. It's about making progress, not making sacrifices. Here's what real relentlessness looks like. It's getting up every morning and doing the work even when you don't feel like it. It's making the phone calls you need to make even when you're afraid of rejection. It's reading the books you need to read even when you'd rather watch television. It's exercising when you'd rather stay in bed. It's eating healthy when you'd rather eat junk food. It's saving money when you'd rather spend it. Real relentlessness is about the small things you do every day that nobody sees. It's about the daily disciplines that compound over time. It's about the boring, unglamorous work that creates extraordinary results. Most people want the results of relentlessness without the reality of relentlessness. They want the success without the daily grind. They want the achievement without the consistent effort. They want the destination without the journey. But here's what I've learned. There are no shortcuts to success. There are no quick fixes. There are no magic formulas. There is only the daily discipline of doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. The key to true relentlessness is making your daily actions automatic. It's about creating habits that require no willpower to maintain. It's about building systems that carry you forward even when your motivation is low. Because here's the truth about motivation, it comes and goes. Some days you'll feel fired up and ready to conquer the world. Other days you'll feel tired and discouraged and ready to quit. If you depend on motivation to drive your actions, you'll be successful some days and unsuccessful others. That's not relentlessness. That's inconsistency. Relentlessness is about doing the work regardless of how you feel. It's about showing up whether you're motivated or not. It's about making progress whether you feel like it or not. It's about building momentum that doesn't depend on your emotions or your circumstance. How do you do this? How do you create this kind of sustainable relentlessness? It starts with understanding the difference between activities and accomplishments. Most people confuse being busy with being productive. They think that if they're working hard, they must be making progress. But working hard on the wrong things is just sophisticated procrastination. True relentlessness focuses on results, not activities. It asks the question, what are the few things that if I did them consistently would make the biggest difference in my success? And then it focuses exclusively on those things. This is what I call productive persistence. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things consistently. It's about identifying the 20% of activities that produce 80% of your results and then being relentless about those activities. For a salesperson, productive persistence might mean making a certain number of quality calls every day, no matter what. For a writer, it might mean writing a certain number of words every day, regardless of whether they feel inspired. For an entrepreneur, it might mean working on the most important project for a set amount of time every day, even when other urgent things are demanding attention. The key is to identify what these core activities are for you and then to be absolutely relentless about doing them. Not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient, not when you have time, every day, without exception, without excuse. This is where most people fail. They identify what they need to do, but they don't do it consistently. They do it when they feel motivated. They do it when they have time. They do it when everything else is taken care of. And then they wonder why they're not making progress. Relentlessness means doing the important things first, every day. It means protecting your core activities from all the other demands on your time. It means saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. It means being disciplined about your priorities. But here's what makes this sustainable. You measure your success by your consistency, not by your results. You celebrate the fact that you did the work regardless of what the work produced. You take pride in your persistence, not just your progress. This is crucial because results don't always come immediately. Sometimes you can do everything right for weeks or months without seeing any visible progress. If you measure your success only by results, you'll get discouraged and quit. But if you measure your success by your consistency, you'll stay motivated to continue. Think about a farmer for a moment. A farmer plants seeds in the spring, but he doesn't see the harvest until the fall. If he judged his success by what he could see every day, he'd think he was failing. The seeds look the same as they did yesterday. The soil looks the same. Nothing appears to be happening. But the farmer knows that growth is happening beneath the surface. He knows that if he continues to water and tend his crops, eventually he'll see the results. He measures his success not by what he can see, but by what he's doing. He's relentless about the daily activities that he knows will eventually produce a harvest. You need to think like a farmer. You need to understand that success grows beneath the surface, long before it becomes visible above ground. You need to be relentless about the daily activities that you know will eventually produce results, even when you can't see those results yet. This requires a different kind of thinking. Instead of asking, what did I accomplish today? You need to ask, did I do what I committed to do today? Instead of measuring progress by results, you measure progress by process. Instead of focusing on outcomes, you focus on activities. This doesn't mean you ignore results completely. Results are important. They tell you whether your activities are working. They help you adjust your approach. They give you feedback about what's effective and what isn't. But results shouldn't be your primary measure of success, especially in the short term. Your primary measure of success should be your consistency, your relentlessness, your refusal to quit even when progress seems slow. Here's another key aspect of true relentlessness. It's flexible in tactics, but firm in direction. It adjusts the how, but never changes the what. It's willing to try different approaches, but never willing to abandon the goal. Most people get this backwards. They're rigid about their methods, but flexible about their goals. When one approach doesn't work, they change their destination instead of changing their route. When things get difficult, they lower their standards instead of raising their effort. Relentless people do the opposite. They're absolutely committed to their destination, but completely flexible about how they get there. If one path doesn't work, they try another. If one strategy fails, they develop a new one. If one approach hits a dead end, they find a different route. This is what separates successful people from unsuccessful people. Unsuccessful people quit when their first plan doesn't work. Successful people just develop a second plan. And if that doesn't work, they develop a third plan, and a fourth, and a fifth. They keep developing new plans until one of them works. Thomas Edison tried over 1,000 different materials for the light bulb filament before he found one that worked. When asked about his failures, he said he hadn't failed 1,000 times. He had found 1,000 ways that didn't work. That's the mindset of relentlessness. You need to develop the same mindset. You need to understand that every failure is just feedback. Every setback is just information. Every obstacle is just a puzzle to solve. Nothing is permanent except your commitment to your goal. This is what makes quitting impossible. When you're flexible about your methods but firm about your destination, there's always another way to try. There's always another approach to test. There's always another strategy to implement. As long as you're learning and adapting and growing, you're making progress, even when it doesn't feel like it. The final aspect of true relentlessness I want to share with you is this. It's powered by purpose, not pressure. It comes from within, not from without. It's driven by your why, not by external expectations or demands. And your relentlessness is powered by purpose. It becomes sustainable. When it comes from your own deep commitment to your goals, it becomes unshakable. When it's driven by your own reasons, it becomes unstoppable. But when your persistence is driven by pressure from others, it eventually breaks down. When it's powered by guilt or shame or fear, it becomes unsustainable. When it comes from trying to prove something to other people, it becomes fragile. True relentlessness comes from knowing why you're doing what you're doing. It comes from having a clear picture of what you want to achieve and why it matters to you. It comes from understanding that your goals are worth whatever effort they require. This is why clarifying your why is so important. Your why is what sustains you when things get tough. Your why is what motivates you when you don't feel like working. Your why is what reminds you that your goals are worth pursuing when obstacles appear overwhelming. Without a strong why, relentlessness becomes impossible. Without a clear purpose, persistence becomes pointless. Without knowing why you're doing what you're doing, it's easy to quit when things get difficult. But with a strong why, with a clear purpose, with a deep understanding of what you want and why you want it, relentlessness becomes natural, it becomes automatic, it becomes inevitable. This is the foundation of true relentlessness. Intelligent action, consistent effort, flexible tactics, firm direction, and purpose-driven persistence. This is what makes success inevitable and quitting impossible. Now let me tell you about the most important part of becoming relentless. It's not what you do with your hands. It's what you do with your mind. Because everything starts in your head. Your thoughts determine your actions, your beliefs determine your behaviors, your mental foundation determines whether you'll persist or quit when things get tough. Most people have weak mental foundations. They build their persistence on shifting sand instead of solid rock. When storms come, when pressure mounts, when obstacles appear, their foundation crumbles and they give up. They quit not because the external challenges are too great, but because their internal foundation is too weak. If you want to be truly relentless, if you want to make quitting impossible, you need to build an unshakable mental foundation. You need to develop a mindset that can weather any storm, overcome any obstacle, and persist through any challenge. The first pillar of this mental foundation is an unshakable why. Not just any why, not a weak why, not a borrowed why, an unshakable why. A why that's so powerful, so compelling, so important to you that nothing can shake your commitment to it. Most people have weak whys. They want to be successful because it sounds nice. They want to make money because everyone else wants to make money. They want to achieve their goals because they think they should. These are not unshakable whys. These are wishes. And wishes don't sustain you when things get difficult. An unshakable why is personal. It's emotional. It's urgent. It's something that matters so much to you that you'd rather die trying than live without it. It's something that connects to your deepest values, your strongest desires, your most important relationship. Let me give you an example. Wanting to make $1 million is not an unshakable why. That's just a number. But wanting to make $1 million so you can provide your children with opportunities you never had, so you can take care of your aging parents, so you can have the freedom to do work that matters to you, so you can contribute to causes you believe in, that's an unshakable why. The difference is in the connection to what matters most to you. When your goals connect to your deepest values and most important relationships, they become non-negotiable. When your why is strong enough, your how becomes automatic. But here's what most people don't understand about developing an unshakable why. It's not enough to think about it once and then forget about it. You need to connect with your why every single day. You need to remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. You need to keep your why fresh and powerful and present in your mind. I recommend writing down your why and reading it every morning. Not just scanning it, really reading it, really thinking about it, really feeling it. Let it remind you what you're working for. Let it inspire you to take action. Let it strengthen your resolve to persist no matter what challenges you face. The second pillar of an unshakable mental foundation is learning to reframe failure as education. Most people see failure as evidence that they should quit. They see setbacks as signs that they're not cut out for success. They see obstacles as proof that their goals are impossible. This is backwards thinking. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Every failure teaches you something you need to know. Every setback gives you information you need to have. Every obstacle shows you a skill you need to develop. The most successful people I know have failed more than the least successful people, not because they're worse at what they do, but because they've tried more things. They've taken more risks. They've pushed harder against their limits. They've been in the game longer. When you reframe failure as education, everything changes. Instead of being discouraged by setbacks, you become curious about what they can teach you. Instead of being defeated by obstacles, you become determined to overcome them. Instead of being weakened by challenges, you become strengthened by them. This doesn't mean you celebrate failure. This doesn't mean you're careless about making mistakes. This means you refuse to let failure stop you. This means you extract every lesson you can from every setback you experience. This means you use your failures as fuel for your future success. And here's how you do this practically. Every time something goes wrong, every time you face a setback, every time you encounter an obstacle, ask yourself 3 questions. What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? What will I do differently next time? These questions transform failure from a reason to quit into a reason to continue. They turn setbacks into setups for comebacks. They convert obstacles into opportunities for improvement. The third pillar of an unshakable mental foundation is developing a personal philosophy that guides your decisions and sustains your efforts. A personal philosophy is a set of beliefs and principles that govern how you think and act. It's your operating system for life. Most people don't have a clear personal philosophy. They make decisions based on emotions, circumstances, or what other people think. They don't have clear principles to guide them when things get tough. They don't have beliefs that sustain them when progress is slow. Without a strong personal philosophy, it's easy to quit when challenges arise. Without clear principles, it's easy to compromise when pressure mounts. Without firm beliefs, It's easy to give up when obstacles appear overwhelming. But when you have a clear personal philosophy, when you have principles that guide your decisions, when you have beliefs that sustain your efforts, you become unshakable. You know what you stand for. You know what you're willing to do. You know what you'll never compromise on. Let me share some elements of a philosophy that supports relentlessness. First, the belief that you are responsible for your own success. Not your circumstances, not your background, not other people. You. This belief puts you in control of your destiny. It makes you the author of your own story. Second, the belief that every problem has a solution. This doesn't mean every problem is easy to solve. This doesn't mean you'll find the solution immediately. This means that if you persist long enough, if you're creative enough, if you're willing to learn and grow, you can overcome any obstacle. Third, the belief that success is a process, not an event. This means you focus on getting better every day rather than achieving perfection immediately. This means you measure progress over time rather than expecting instant results. This means you trust the process even when you can't see the outcome. Fourth, the belief that you can learn anything you need to learn. This means you're not limited by your current knowledge or skills. This means you can develop whatever abilities success requires. This means you see challenges as opportunities to grow rather than evidence of your limitation. These beliefs and others like them create a foundation that can support relentless action. They give you strength when you feel weak. They give you hope when you feel discouraged. They give you direction when you feel lost. The fourth pillar of an unshakable mental foundation is learning to be patient with results while being urgent with actions. This is one of the most difficult mental skills to develop, but it's essential for sustained success. Most people get this backwards. They're patient with their actions, but urgent with their results. They're willing to wait to get started, but they expect immediate outcomes. They procrastinate on taking action, but they get frustrated when success doesn't come quickly. Relentless people do the opposite. They're urgent about taking action, but patient about getting results. They start immediately, but they're willing to wait for success. They work with intensity, but they understand that results take time. This mindset is crucial because most worthwhile goals take time to achieve. If you expect instant results, you'll get discouraged and quit before you have a chance to succeed. But if you're patient with results while being urgent with actions, you can sustain your efforts long enough to achieve your goals. And here's how you develop this mindset. You focus on what you can control, which is your actions, and you let go of what you can't control, which is the timing of results. You measure success by effort, not just outcomes. You celebrate progress, not just achievements. You also develop realistic expectations about how long success takes. Most people underestimate the time required to achieve significant goals. They think they can accomplish in months what actually takes years. When reality doesn't match their expectations, they get discouraged and quit. Do your research. Find out how long it typically takes to achieve the kind of success you want. Talk to people who have done what you want to do. Learn about their journey. Understand their timeline. This will help you set realistic expectations and maintain patience when progress seems slow. The fifth pillar of an unshakable mental foundation is creating systems that make persistence automatic. Your mental foundation isn't just about beliefs and attitudes. It's also about structures and systems that support relentless action. Willpower is unreliable. Motivation comes and goes. Emotions change with circumstances. If you depend on these things to drive your persistence, you'll be inconsistent. You'll be strong some days and weak others. You'll make progress sometimes and stagnate other times. But systems are reliable. Habits are consistent. Structures support you when your feelings don't. When you create systems that make persistence automatic, you don't have to rely on willpower or motivation or emotions. You just follow the system. What kind of systems support relentlessness? Daily routines that include your most important activities. weekly reviews that help you track progress and adjust course, monthly planning sessions that keep you focused on your priorities, annual goal setting that gives you direction and purpose, environmental design that eliminates temptations and supports good decisions, accountability partnerships that keep you committed to your goals, progress tracking that shows you how far you've come, reward systems that celebrate consistency and effort. These systems remove the decision-making from daily persistence. You don't have to decide whether to work on your goals every day. You just follow your routine. You don't have to choose between important and urgent tasks. Your system tells you what to do first. You don't have to rely on memory to track progress. Your system does it automatically. The final pillar of an unshakable mental foundation is developing what I call relentless identity. This is perhaps the most powerful aspect of mental transformation. It's not just about what you do, it's about who you are. Most people think of themselves as people who are trying to be successful. They see persistence as something they do, not something they are. They view relentlessness as a behavior they need to practice, not an identity they need to adopt. But there's a huge difference between doing something and being something. When you do something, you can stop doing it. When you be something, stopping becomes a betrayal of who you are. When you see yourself as a relentless person, quitting becomes impossible, not because you can't quit, but because quitting would violate your identity. It would be inconsistent with who you are. It would require you to become someone else. How do you develop a relentless identity? You start by acting like a relentless person would act. You make decisions that relentless people would make. You develop habits that relentless people have. You think thoughts that relentless people think. Every time you persist when you feel like quitting, you strengthen your relentless identity. Every time you continue when things get difficult, you prove to yourself that you're the kind of person who doesn't give up. Every time you choose action over excuses, you reinforce your identity as someone who gets things done. Over time, this identity becomes stronger than any challenge you face. It becomes more powerful than any obstacle in your path. It becomes the foundation of your relentlessness and the reason that quitting feels impossible. This is the mental foundation that supports true relentlessness. An unshakable why that gives you purpose. A reframing of failure that gives you education. A personal philosophy that gives you guidance. Patience with results and urgency with actions that gives you sustainability. Systems that make persistence automatic. And an identity that makes quitting impossible. Build this foundation in your mind and your actions will follow. Strengthen these pillars and your persistence will become unshakable. Develop this mindset and success will become inevitable. Now let me give you the practical strategies that will transform your understanding of relentlessness into relentless action. Because knowledge without application is worthless. Understanding without implementation is just entertainment. You can have all the right mindsets in the world, but if you don't know how to apply them practically, you'll still struggle to maintain persistence when things get tough. The first strategy is what I call the 5% improvement principle. Most people try to make massive changes overnight. They want to transform their entire life in a week. They want to go from zero to hero in record time. This approach always fails because it's unsustainable. Instead of trying to make huge improvements, focus on getting 5% better every day. 5% doesn't sound like much, but it compounds quickly. If you improve by 5% every day for a year, you'll be 37 times better than when you started. 37 times better. Think about that. This principle works because 5% improvement is achievable. It doesn't overwhelm you. It doesn't require you to completely change your life. It just requires you to be slightly better today than you were yesterday. Anyone can do that. How do you apply this practically? If you want to build a business, don't try to create a $1 million company overnight. Focus on being 5% better at your business skills every day. If you want to get in shape, don't try to lose 50 pounds in a month. Focus on being 5% healthier in your choices every day. The key is consistency. 5% improvement every day for a long time beats massive effort for a short time. Steady progress beats sporadic bursts. Persistent small steps beat occasional giant leaps. The second strategy is breaking down overwhelming goals into daily actions. Big goals can paralyze you. When you look at everything you need to accomplish, it can seem impossible. When you see how far you have to go, it can be discouraging. When you focus on the size of your goal, it can make you want to quit before you start. But every big goal is just a collection of small actions. Every massive achievement is just the result of daily disciplines. Every extraordinary outcome is just the compound effect of ordinary activities. The solution is to break your big goals down into the smallest possible daily actions. Don't focus on losing 50 pounds. Focus on making one healthy choice today. Don't focus on building $1 million business. Focus on making one phone call today. When you focus on daily actions instead of ultimate outcomes, everything becomes manageable. You're not trying to achieve everything at once. You're just trying to do one thing today. Anyone can do one thing. Anyone can take one step. Anyone can make one choice. The third strategy is building accountability systems that keep you moving. Relentlessness is easier when you're not trying to do it alone. When other people are counting on you. When you've made commitments to others. When you have support and encouragement, persistence becomes much easier. Find an accountability partner, someone who will check on your progress, someone who will ask tough questions, someone who won't let you make excuses, someone who believes in your goals and will help you stay committed to them. Better yet, find a group of people who are working towards similar goals. Join a mastermind. Find a community. Connect with others who understand what you're trying to accomplish and who will support your efforts. Make public commitments. Tell people what you're working on. Share your goals on social media. Write about your journey. When you make your goals public, you create external pressure to follow through. The fourth strategy is the art of adjusting tactics while maintaining direction. Relentlessness doesn't mean being stubborn about your methods. It means being stubborn about your destination. When one approach isn't working, you try another. When one strategy fails, you develop a new one. Track your results. Measure your progress. Pay attention to what's working and what isn't. Be willing to change your tactics when they're not producing results. Be quick to abandon approaches that aren't effective. But never abandon your goal. Never change your destination. Never lower your standards. Be flexible about how you get there, but be firm about where you're going. The fifth strategy is creating momentum through small wins and celebration. Momentum is powerful. When you have momentum, everything becomes easier. When you're moving forward, it's easier to keep moving forward. When you're making progress, it's easier to make more progress. But momentum doesn't happen automatically. You have to create it intentionally. You do this by focusing on small wins and celebrating them. Every small victory builds momentum. Every achievement, no matter how minor, gives you energy to continue. Don't wait for big successes to celebrate. Celebrate the small ones. Celebrate completing your daily routine. Celebrate making your phone calls. Celebrate showing up when you didn't feel like it. Celebrate persistence itself, not just results. These celebrations don't have to be elaborate. They can be as simple as acknowledging your effort, taking a moment to appreciate your progress, or doing something small that you enjoy. The key is to make sure you're recognizing and rewarding the behaviors you want to continue. When you celebrate persistence, you encourage more persistence. When you acknowledge effort, you inspire more effort. When you appreciate progress, remember, relentlessness is not about perfection, it's about persistence. It's not about never failing, it's about never quitting. It's not about being superhuman, it's about being consistent. These practical strategies will help you be consistent. They'll help you maintain persistence even when motivation is low, They'll help you keep moving forward even when progress seems slow. Apply these strategies consistently and you'll find that relentlessness becomes automatic. You'll develop systems and habits that support persistent action. You'll create momentum that carries you forward. You'll build accountability that keeps you committed, and you'll make progress toward your goals inevitable. Now we come to the final piece of the puzzle. Everything we've talked about up to this point has been preparation, the understanding, the mindset, the strategies, the tactics. All of that was getting you ready for this moment, the moment when you make the decision that changes everything, the moment when you burn the bridges to mediocrity and make quitting impossible. Because that's what this is really about. It's not just about being persistent. It's not just about working hard. It's not just about having the right strategies. It's about making a commitment so complete, so total, so absolute that giving up is no longer an option. Let me tell you what this looks like. When you truly make quitting impossible, you don't just hope you'll succeed. You don't just think you'll succeed. You don't just believe you'll succeed. You know you'll succeed. Not because success is guaranteed, but because failure is impossible. Not because the path is easy, but because abandoning the path is unthinkable. This is the identity shift I talked about earlier, but taken to its ultimate conclusion. You stop being someone who is trying to succeed and become someone who will succeed. You stop being someone who wants to achieve their goals and become someone who is achieving their goals. You stop being someone who hopes to be relentless and become someone who is relentless. How do you make this shift? How do you cross the line from hoping to knowing? How do you move from trying to being? It starts with a decision. Not just any decision, a decision that cuts off all other options. A decision that burns the bridges behind you. A decision that makes retreat impossible. This is what successful people do that unsuccessful people don't. They don't just commit to success. They commit to success so completely that failure becomes impossible. They don't just choose to pursue their goals. They choose to pursue their goals with such intensity that giving up becomes unthinkable. Think about what this means practically. It means you stop keeping backup plans that make it easy to quit. It means you stop telling yourself you'll try for a while and see what happens. It means you stop hedging your bets and playing it safe. It means you go all in on your success. Now, this doesn't mean you're reckless. This doesn't mean you ignore reality. This doesn't mean you don't have contingency plans for how you'll achieve your goals. This means you have no contingency plans for what you'll do if you don't achieve them. Because not achieving them is not an option. When you make this kind of commitment, everything changes. Your energy increases because you're not wasting it on doubts and hesitations. Your focus sharpens because you're not distracted by other options. Your creativity expands because you have to find a way to succeed. Your determination strengthens because you have no choice but to persist. But more than that, other people notice. When you're truly committed, when you've made quitting impossible, people can sense it. They can feel your determination. They can see your focus. They can recognize your commitment. And they want to help committed people. They want to support people who are serious about their goals. Opportunities start appearing that weren't there before. Resources become available that you didn't know existed. Connections develop that you never expected. Support emerges from unexpected places, not because of luck, but because commitment attracts opportunity. When you're truly relentless, when you've made quitting impossible, you also become magnetic to success. You draw the right people into your life. You attract the right opportunities. You create the right circumstances. Not through magic, but through the power of absolute commitment. Here's what I want you to understand about legacy. Every day you persist, every day you refuse to quit, every day you continue moving toward your goals, you're building something bigger than just your own success. You're building a legacy of relentlessness. You're creating an example for others to follow. You're proving that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things through persistence. Your relentlessness inspires others. Your persistence gives other people permission to persist. Your refusal to quit encourages others to keep going. You become a force for good in the world, not just through what you achieve, but through how you achieve it. But this legacy starts with a choice. It starts with deciding that you will be the kind of person who doesn't quit. It starts with committing to pursue your goals with such intensity that giving up becomes impossible. It starts with making relentlessness part of your identity. I want to challenge you to make that choice right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel more ready. Right now. Choose to be relentless. Choose to make quitting impossible. Choose to pursue your goals with absolute commitment. Because here's the truth. You already have everything you need to succeed. You have the ability to learn. You have the capacity to grow. You have the power to choose. You have the potential to achieve anything you're willing to work for. The only thing standing between you and your goals is your willingness to be absolutely relentless in pursuing them. The world is waiting for what you have to offer. Your family is counting on you to become the person you're capable of being. Your future self is depending on the choices you make today. Don't let them down. Don't let yourself down. Make the choice. Make the commitment. Make quitting impossible. Become so relentless that success becomes inevitable. Your goals are waiting. Your dreams are calling. Your destiny is beckoning. But what are you going to do about it? The choice is yours. The time is now. The moment is here. Be relentless. Make quitting impossible. And watch as your life transforms in ways you never thought possible. The question isn't whether you can do it. The question is whether you will do it. Whether you'll make the choice that changes everything. Whether you'll commit to being relentless no matter what obstacles you face. That's the challenge I leave you with today. That's the decision only you can make. That's the commitment that will determine whether you achieve your dreams or simply dream about achieving them. Make the choice. Make quitting impossible and never, ever give up.